All right, Daryl, you want to play my got it and give Paula a break with her leg? Sir. Oh, before we get going, so last time you guys voted this, but I failed to have you sign it. You sign it, and then you have Lisa's folder there too. Ken?
I'm gonna shoot. I know, it must have fallen out or I gave it something. I usually do, I got dental floss. I mean, I got all kinds of stuff in there. Just not a pet.
Based on your earlier comment, which I will not say. At least you got dental floss.
Decide on doing paper because I'm not smart, you don't have to say that you can like it all. That's okay, it's okay. I don't know what you mean. Okay. How's the kitchen going?
No, I wish. I fell from the second floor to the bottom to the first floor. And I put a 10% air in like 2 weeks for it attached. Like, and
Well, you're lucky, that's all you did. Oh, wow.
especially my age.
Yeah. Wow.
So
6:30, we'll call this meeting to order.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All counselors are present. We have no executive session tonight. Adjustments to the agenda. I would like to add the piece that we have been asked to appoint someone to the RS-316 task force, and we were unable to do it. I did attend the meeting last week, and they have 6 more meetings on tonight. Want to be a part of it, so we want to add that, suspend our order and add that to the agenda.
Yeah, 14.5.
And to, oh yeah, okay, so do you want someone to make a motion to add
Yeah,
that?
and I have one as well, if you want to do it as a group.
Okay,
14.6 as a part of the ancillary package. You have ballots from MMA, their annual committee ballot. And so we'll add that to the agenda and do that housekeeping with your permission.
someone want to
You got
make
that?
the motion?
You got what you want? So move.
I second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
We can move right down to general reports. I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes from the June 5th meeting.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes and then this meeting is written.
Oh, okay, do you want to do the, the June 20th meeting as well?
I have to abstain from the,
From the
First.
sure. Okay, so we'll do that and then. Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Okay, now the June meeting.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes we written from the June 20th, 2021.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Right, yeah. All those in favor?
Tricia, are your microphones on? I feel like I'm down.
air conditioner.
Yeah, it's probably air conditioner.
All right.
Yeah.
I can hear myself. We probably turn that down.
No, that's,
Actually, probably good. Really, I'm gonna hear, when we turn on the. Sure.
Yes.
We'll give you the speaker a little. You asked for it, I'm just saying.
no, I just.
No, I know, I'm just teasing.
I could hear when I left home.
You should be able to.
This is my everyday occurrence.
I make a motion that we accept the department monthly reports as presented.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
Okay, any public comments? Well, state your name, make sure you turn the microphone on, please.
So, big announcement from Eric Peterson from the Historical Society that they'll be asked, Kingfield Museum, Stanley Museum, they can deliver a Stanley car down for community day for August 5th. And they're coming down, they will have a car and it will take, they will take riders. And the donation will go to them, the museum, but they'll be putting this car on the trailer. We get down here and we're looking for a place to park in the center of town, someplace for convenient for people. As you know, the reason why there's a connection between Mechanic Falls and the Stanley Museum and the Stanley Brothers is that the prototype engine was developed here at Penny's. It was the first engine was weighing over almost 800 pounds. It wasn't going to work for the car. And then they went to Sam Penny here back in the turn of the century. And the prototype was built here and worked very successfully. In fact, one of the Stanleys was a school superintendent here in town as well. So there's a connection between the Stanley Brothers and Kennedy Falls that should not be forgotten. So it was very, very nice for them to be able to come and deliver a car to us to have, people celebrate. So, but with the committing only, if it was like Saturday or Sunday, probably not. But if it's a day like today, it'd be fine. So I just want to make it that official announcement. Okay. Thank you.
Any further comment? Comment section? Any council comments? No?
I have received multiple phone calls from first responders about the fact that when they try to hide their information like we've been able to do in the past from O'Donnell's website, they could not do that anymore for safety reasons. And in a LEO's wife's capacity, I'm asking that be put back on. Unlike where Mr. Hodgkins is from, where they just list the property, the map, and the location. Our town includes very beautiful color photographs of all sides of the homes, which make it quite easy for somebody who wants to break in to be able to have information to be able to do so.
No, you did put this back on, right?
Yeah, so I don't know if you saw the email.
No, I can't get it to work. So if you send an email, I didn't get it to work.
Alright.
All I know is that I've heard from four so far.
So, I sent everybody out an email. And, basically the email said that after much thought and consideration and debate. That, in a conversation with John O'Donnell, I decided to reverse myself and to, retoggle those ones that were hidden. They either are hidden now or will be shortly after tonight, after the tax commitment is done. Okay. And, I will say that the reason for the consideration was, as I had explained to most everybody, was originally one fold in my brain, but staff have reminded me of another very important reason why I made the decision of what I did. When it comes to those hidden files, it's very difficult for Sarah, when she is doing her tax stuff, to know what's what, because she can't see it. Because she says she's into McDonald's every day, multiple times a day doing stuff. And so there are workarounds. We will be implementing the workarounds to it. If it was just and like I said, originally this conversation began, John O'Donnell and I had a conversation back on February, March. And, you know, my auspices is that from where I sit, I want to make sure that we treat everybody fairly, which I think is a proper thing to do. In addition to that, the reason why the subject came up is because Sarah had reached out to O'Donnell's and said, what's going on here? I can't see stuff. I don't, there's a mystery. And so they explained the situation and they were able to do the work around on it. But so between that and wanting to treat everybody fairly is why I made the decision what I did in order to treat everybody the same and have those few turned on. And there's not many. I think the town is even included on one piece of property. There's like 10 or 11. The list I sent to you guys. So if you check your email, you'll see it. And all of those, if they haven't been already, will be shut back off.
If I may, or as you put it, equity for all. My opinion is based on how much information we do give out, that if my neighbor wants to be able to do it, they should be able to too, because like I said, unlike South Paris, where it's just your name, your value, and a lot number, Mechanic Falls includes beautiful color photographs of all sides of your house. And then a lovely sketch of what the inside of your house looks like. So if individual chooses to be unethical and criminal in manner and knows that a certain individual may or may not have money, guns, whatever, they can go onto our website and case the place out without having to physically do it. It's made to me for them. So I would hope that in the name of fairness and equity, that we are going to allow that be for anybody in town who would like to cover that. The other thing is too, is that we have recently moved individuals to this community who may not have been in the frame of where myself and some of these other people were, who would want to do it. But based on what I looked at, there's no way to do it now. It used to be an option that you got asked. You were asked, do you want this to be public, be visible or no? And you could click on the no, and it would take it off the computers. Couldn't find your information, and I think that in fairness, and equity, that should be for everybody, because you do have some business people in town that are bonded and do professions that could potentially target them. And they should have a right to do that if they want to.
Should be a way of just putting. Boilerplate. Is there a way to just do a boilerplate? Description and having to, like a. If somebody's seeking information about something, have to come in and request that information, if the realtor needs to have it or something like that. Have a second tier. So all of this becomes a very slippery slope, and quite honestly, this is not a hill that I want to die on. I made a decision, it created some controversy, so I'm trying to be smart enough and hear and listen and acquiesce and do it. Do know that most communities today, everything is on display. You can go on Google Earth and do pretty much the same thing. It's all out there. And my fear is that if we have half, 2/3 of the town doing this, it is going to create a nightmare for my clerk's office. And in terms of the further conversation with O'Donnell's, I mean, if you guys really, want to go to the hilt on this thing, we can, and I can bring in O'Donnell's. I really don't have a dog in the hunt, other than making sure I'm taking care of staff and treating everybody equally. And, John O'Donnell said the reason why that this was even an option to begin with is that when they started going to this electronic version of what they were doing, they're creating some pushback. And this was a good way for initially, especially for service personnel, i.e., cops and whatnot, that might be a little bit more sensitive, to give them, a little added layer of protection. And this is exactly the slippery slope that I was thinking about. Because to me, it's either they all should be turned off or they all should be turned on. But in this particular thing, again, it's not important enough to really, die on the hill with it, as far as I'm concerned. Trying to treat everybody the best way possible. All I can say is most towns, and I'd be more than happy to get something either in writing or invite John or Dennis to show up at a future meeting and to discuss this with you guys. I'll leave it in your lap, quite honestly. My only concern is that, right now there's a few, right? And so the more that we get, the more situations, you should have seen the stack of tax liens that I signed today that are going to the Registry of Deeds tomorrow. And any time that Sarah has to do some nitty gritty, she accesses O'Donnell's website for stuff, for information of all different types of sorts. And the harder we make our job, I mean, the workaround, quite honestly, is putting it on paper and transporting the paper over here, right? And so, can it be done? Yes, it can be done. But if some of them are electronic and some of them are paper, it's I don't know. Like I said, I reversed my earlier decision and hoping that it was going to not become an issue. But if you guys want to go there, it's your town. You can go for it.
What's the purpose of giving that much information, like a floor plan, and like that seems a little over the top. I'm just asking, like, I'm assuming it's more than it used to be. I agree with the Google Earth thing. If you know my address, you just punch into Google Earth and you can go right around. Like, I actually waved to the car the other day when I was by. So like, I was in the, but like, regardless, I mean, I understand that, and if you know my address, you can go look at my house from the outside all you want. Like, that's your right to drive around my property all you want, as long as you stay on the road. But I'm just wondering, why is there, well, I just thought, I thought the floor plan thing does, like, it does set up a red flag to me as well. It seems like a little over the top, because I don't see how that would help with taxes.
I'm
That
not,
must be on O'Donnell's.
I can't,
Well, and it's just not floor plans, it's color photographs of every side of your house. It shows every window, every door, whether you got decks, whether you got.
Right, but you can do
sliders.
that literally by driving by the house.
But you have to work at it. You don't have a click of the button on a computer.
Google Earth will pretty much show, I mean, that car, I mean, on your, but I live on a block where they could literally probably pretty much see every side of my house, so I do agree that Google Earth, I mean, if up till a year or two ago, even though I've been here 8 years, if I Google Earth my old address, I could see me on the deck. I have to be on the deck. Car went. But, I mean, I understand that part. It seems to me like the floor plan is a little over the top. But I don't know if they. So it's very basic.
But it also comes with all the lovely color pictures.
I looked at mine, so I would know exactly what she's speaking. Two, it's a code, you'd never be able to get in, never be able to figure it out.
Oh, yeah, you're one good kid.
Or private.
I only have
Anyway.
22 cameras.
How again?
Yeah, I just want the cameras too, but I mean, anyway, yes, I mean, it is what it is, but, I mean, I think we should table this for now because it's not on the agenda and it's something that we could discuss further if we all think that it needs to be discussed further, but I mean, it's just been brought to light because someone was upset about it. The problem was fixed. Has there been more people? Are you sending these people to Vic? Because they can come to you and tell you that it's.
I told them to go to Sarah because she's the tax girl. So
Okay.
that's where I assumed I was supposed to sell them was to the tax lady.
well, if, I would say, if anybody has listing out there, anybody has an issue, start with me.
Yeah,
Okay,
I always send.
because I need to assess am I getting, I mean, if it's one or two, then I'm not gonna worry so much about it. But if it starts to be a flood, well, then I'm obviously gonna have a conversation with John, and then I'm gonna have a conversation with you guys. You know, and again, my motives are pure, they truly are. I just-
Oh, and I don't question that, Vic, but I can think of 3 individuals with business in my radius that are new. That probably don't realize that this is going on. And that if they had an option, would probably take it like the rest of us has taken it. That's what I'm saying, and they should be able to.
But all of our tax maps have always had a perimeter measurement around for square footage determination. But I'm not a big fan of the floor plan inside. And to me, that's
I mean,
over.
it's this, like, you could tell the floor plan from, you had a, road, or, I mean, just,
We could see.
Well, no, mine is more detailed than that. If you look at my farm, well, if Vic says it's gone.
I don't know if it's gone today. But when I was dealing with this, the information I had was they would get to it as soon as they could after the tax commitment. Now, whether or not, because they're, in all fairness to O'Donnell's, they're hustling, they're doing 5 town revaluations right now. And so, if somebody got a moment to go in and do it, I don't know, I haven't checked. But I'm
Well-
confident that it will be if it has.
And like I said, my thing is to answer your equity for all of us. Then it should be everybody's account. And like I said, if you think of 3 individuals that have moved to town in the last year or two. That probably don't even know this is up. And then I can think of some people that are bonded in town that probably don't want to be up there. They knew it, they didn't give their folks up there.
So picture being up, honestly, it's the 21st century. Most towns do it. Most towns don't even give an option. But again, that's so,
If it was done like your town, you know what I found out about you?
when you find out,
Your wife has 3 properties.
no, she did.
Oh, that's, you're not the same Hodgkins.
okay, let's move on. But I'm gonna pull this back in, we're gonna, if there's any other comments, we can move on, but I just don't think that we need to give this any more time.
Just send them last week. all the prior tax cards have had the perimeter on them.
Right, and that floor
That's-
plan is
to me, that's-
basically the perimeter.
That's
But they have
right
to
there.
come in to get the tax card. You have to physically come in and ask to see the tax card. And if
They've been
somebody's
put up
got
on
a
record.
bad motive in mind, that's one more step that they have to do. And and the clerks have a face, so if something, God forbid, does happen. And the cops say, hey. The clerks will be able to say, well, this individual came in on this day and asked to see that tax card.
Look there. I know it's.
Well, I'm trying to pull my agenda back up. Okay, town manager report, you're up then.
Okay, all right, a few updates, roof project. First, a great big thank you to Ray Lavoie. Ray, you're awesome, thank you. So, last reported, we had no bids. We had no bids on the roof project. And, I reported that to you. Ray came to the office and he said, I got a guy that might be able to do it. And what was it, within 10 minutes, the gentleman was in my office. It just all worked out wonderful. Kids. And so I did a deal. The portico, I call the portico roof is done. And he added a couple of pieces of vinyl to the front.
Fix that vinyl. That
It
was
was,
that was
4,100. And for the 4,100, he put on, he tore off all the old stuff, put on a whole new sheathing of water dam, ice dam stuff.
It's smart, you
Yeah, and did the flashing and did everything. And so that project is done
Nice.
and lickety split. I love that. So there's that update. And I
Who was
probably,
the company?
what's that?
Who was the company that followed you?
A gentleman by the name of Chris Batchel. And I'm probably gonna use him again.
LLC.
Chris Batchelor, LLC.
LLC, limited liability corporation.
And, so now it leads into a little bit bigger conversation. Last fall, we had the structural engineer come in and give us a report on this, lovely building. There were quite a few to-do lists on that report. Unless the council tells me no, now that I'm through budgets and all that happy stuff, I am focusing somewhat on the building, doing little projects. So the roof is done. Another one of the items on that report was the oil tank that's in the basement. So it said basically it's all rusted out, needs to be replaced. So I had a conversation with Jay Bryant. Jay was very kind. He came over, looked at it, had a conversation with Scott, and the end result is with a little love, an iron brush and some paint, it's worth saving. Jay says it's a very good brand, and he says other than the surface rust, it should be able to be easily repaired. So that saves the town probably a couple $1,000 easy, right there. And so Scott is gonna line up one of his guys to take on that project. And over the next several weeks, that will be so. There is a little mystery though with the big generator that's out back. That's what that oil tank is for. If you believe in whatever year it was put in, like 20 some odd years ago, it's only used a third of the tank of oil. And that doesn't sound reasonable to me the more and more I think about it. Jay and I talked about it for like 15 minutes.
Was it put in after ice storm? Before?
Yeah, it was somewhere in through there. I don't
That was
remember
25 years
the
ago.
exact details of it. But I'm questioning whether the generator is actually hooked up. You remember last summer, we had power go off like once or twice. We had the emergency lights come on. But if that generator was working,
The whole building.
why didn't the building come on? So to me, as I think about it, and I'm not the smartest guy in the cage, but there should be there's something wrong somewhere. And so I'm gonna get somebody to look at it. Because if we have it, much use it.
Is there a transfer switch in the building?
I don't know. Again, this is all above me, quite frankly. So I do know, in conversations with Scott, starts up the generator just to make sure it starts.
And it does start.
And it start. But I just don't know if whatever that connecting point is. If it, where it is and what it does, is it hooked up? So I'll start investigating that. But my overall point is, unless you guys say, Vic, stop. I'm going to continue to do these projects, okay? And anything that's above $7,500, I'll bring to you for you guys to decide. But a lot of this early stuff is kind of easy stuff, so I'm doing.
Excuse me, Vic, is there a way that you could provide us with a list of items that you would like to address?
Yeah,
She had a report, right?
yeah, so I emailed you late this afternoon, the structural engineer's report, so you would have that, okay? And so there's a couple of grocery lists at the end of the report. And one, I met, a new one that I'm working on now is the chimney. If you take a look about 2/3 up the chimney on the back side of the building here, it needs some mortar and some love. And so I called Jay Barrow and had Mr. Barrow come out last Friday. And we went through the whole thing, and he's gonna give me a quote for repairing the chimney and doing the cleaning and everything, because God only knows when the last time it was cleaned. So once I have that information, I'll bring that to you. FY 23 is still in the process of being closed out. I can tell you in discussions and whatnot with Lisa, and it's part of your information packet, it's on part of the agenda packet. She talks a little bit about it. Revenues for FY 23 were more than anticipated, which is good. We got more state revenue sharing, and we did pretty good car registrations, a couple of ones. Expenses, she's still waiting for a couple of bills to pass through the system, and she can tally them into FY 23. And at the end of the day, even though it was a very tight year, it does look like all set, or as an entity, will be under budget. So we'll have something there. And so you marry that to the surplus, to the extra revenue dollars, we should be okay. But let's have the auditors do their good works, and we'll see where we're going to be. I'm a little pleasantly surprised. And I think it's a big kudos to the entire staff and organization, because it really was a pressed year for that budget. Last update, well, next to last. Pine Tree Engineering. So I mentioned to you at the last meeting that I was going to set up a meeting with Rob Crew from Pine Tree Engineering. I worked with him a lot in Paris on the Paris roads. And Rob has a lot of towns in the area. He does about 10 towns. And I met with him and Scott and Chris. And for those of you that don't know, Skeeter, his name is Chris. So for those of you that know him as Skeeter. We all met last week in my office and had a great conversation. And I do think that as the town seemingly is interested in putting a little bit more towards the roads and thinking of the roads in a slightly different way, bringing on the services of Rock Crew is really perfect timing. And he has agreed to take us on as a town. And sometime in the fall, he's going to reach out. We'll get together. We'll figure out what roads we want to do. I gave him I won't say it's a solid 5-year road plan that I have on my computer. Because it was just something I roughed out without Scott and Chris's blessing. So now that we have Rob Crew in here involved in this, we'll let him do it. And in terms of paying for Rob Crew, it will happen one of two different ways. Either we'll tag his bill on as we do the projects, all together, as part of the project. Or moving forward, we'll have the discussion in FY 25. Whether in the operational budget, we just set up a line item for engineering costs for road work. So for those that want to know He charges $115 an hour. And in this day and age, it's pretty damn good. And so I'm very happy with this news. It's good. It's good for the town. Rob will mind the store for us. He'll save us some money in the end by minding the store, and he knows his stuff. Last little item, for those of you that might be interested, tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., you can hear yours truly along with Nancy Peterson's and Jen Killinan on WOXO at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. We're going to be doing it for community. So happy about that. I'm actually a little excited to move back into my former world. See all the changes.
You're gonna physically be there?
I'm sorry.
You'll physically be there?
Yeah, I'll physically be there. Yeah. So that's all that I have. Back to you.
All right, next up, set the mill rate for fiscal year 24 and sign the tax commitment payments. So,
Want me to set the table?
Yes, please.
Okay, so as a part of the agenda packet, and normal for the town, you have 3 mill rate options. I have filled out the commitment papers for all 3 options. And, I'll set the table this way. So a few weeks ago, as part of the revaluation process, everybody got in the mail a revaluation estimate letter. And the mill rate that was used for figuring out that tax was a mill rate of $14.53. I'm very happy to report that after the hearings and whatnot, the final figures come in sweeter for the town. And your 3 options are $13.95, $14, or $14.05. And all the math is on the paperwork in front of you. And in my discussions with John, the difference between all 3, it really boils down to how much money you all want to set aside as the overlay. And remember, the overlay essentially is an amount the town sets aside for future tax abatements. So, like if some of you or anybody in the town, and I've had a couple since the figures were finalized, that still have questions and concerns about their property. So this could be a year where the town might want to set a little extra aside for the overlay, more so than in a normal year. In the year that just ended, FY23, your overlay was roughly 12,000 and change. And so for $13.95, the overlay would be $11,618.73. John and I, and again, you guys decide. I mean, we're comfortable with all 3, but quite frankly, because we don't know what we're going to get, excuse me, especially once people really do get their real tax bills, we're thinking $14 might not be a bad resting place, because your overlay jumps up to $25,925.03. So it gives the town a little bit more wiggle room in the abatement story. And do keep in mind, that any monies that aren't spent at the end of next June from the overlay simply drains down into the undesignated fund balance. So it just goes right to the piggy bank. So it's all the town's money either way, right? So if you guys really, if you want to do the $13.95 and you're comfortable with the 11,000 for overlay, do it. Or perhaps the 14, and if you really wanted to go crazy and choose the 1405, but personally, I don't think that that's.
What is that?
What's that work out to?
So the 1405,
Yeah.
40,231.30.
it's on,
Find the first page versus.
you got a tax calc form that looks
Oh,
like,
okay,
looks like a tax form, sort of.
okay, I see it.
Down at the very
I
bottom.
was looking at the ones you were doing.
So those are your three choices. It is now in your wonderful hands. Good luck.
Last year's overnight, was it 12?
Yeah, it was roughly, if memory serves, like, it was around like 12,600, something like that. And if you're asking me how much we used of it, we used a few thousand. But again, who knows? So it's really whatever you guys want to do.
Well, I guess I would entertain a motion so we can have some discussion, or we can just have discussion first. What do you think? I mean,
Make a motion that we entertain exploring all three. No rate values. And we've been helpful discussion.
Like in that.
all those in favor? Oh.
So
Okay, let's discuss.
I didn't catch that, I'm sorry.
We're
He
just,
said the-
we're just discussing it.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
he wants to
We're gonna
entertain all
entertain all three,
okay,
just so that we can discuss it.
all right, I'm with
And
it.
stay within Robert's rules.
May I ask a question? Do you remember what we figured for fuel oil in the budget?
Could be my mom.
Do I remember what we figured for fuel?
Yeah.
In the new budget? In the new current budget?
Yeah.
We figured on the high side, we took the figures that were in play a year ago, which were higher fuel prices than we have today, as the baseline for figuring fuel prices for all departments for FY 24.
Are we going to consider doing a pre-buy by chance?
Are they even doing that?
Again, when I broached this last year with Jay, wasn't even a consideration at the end of the day. I mean, I showed you all the numbers. I mean, I went through the whole exercise. But nobody was doing it. If somebody's going to be doing, and again, I don't know. You tell me. I mean,
But the monies that we're setting this mill rate for is for overruns. This is for if somebody comes in and we change their tax for. Right? The $11,000 isn't for overing of the oil budget.
no, it's just for tax abatements.
Right.
Right.
And anything that's any amount left over after abating taxes. Drains down into the savings account.
Go start it.
And you had a lot, did O'Donnell have a lot of meetings? A lot of people came in and discussed their,
There's several, but not like, they weren't beating down the door, but they were busy for a few days.
When I talked to the individual here, he said, normally it's 5% people show up, to clean that.
okay, so, and I only asked that because like, did the people there was an issue with come, see that, come in, take care of their issue? So are we, because it was evaluation here. That's my only concern. is that-
Well, and that was my other question was gonna be. Were there phone calls after the times for his?
Yeah.
Did you take care of anybody that came in during that time period that was making appointments? They left with their issues resolved.
No, I mean,
Were
that's
calls,
when,
yeah,
yeah,
have been calls after that, and we have had them reach out to them.
and
And I met with a couple and told them to do essentially that.
do we know if O'Donnell was able to meet with them and fix their issue?
Not exactly yet. In my last conversation with John, in the one particular one I'm thinking of that came to my office, I mentioned it to John and he said, well, he didn't know if Dennis had reached back out to the lady or not, but because again, they're on screech legitimately. But if everybody who sends something to O'Donnell's or calls O'Donnell's will be responded by O'Donnell's. There will be a resolution to their question or concern. Might not be what they want, but there will be a resolution.
So we don't have any idea, how many there was or what potential.
John says that when the tax bills come out, there's probably going to be another batch.
How big of a batch?
I would think one good news is that the mill rate is gonna be substantially less, so some people will do, even though it's higher, they knew it was gonna be higher, it's going to be like, at least it's not that high. I can
Right,
say,
because-
as one who taxes tremendously down, I will breathe the sigh of relief that it's not as high as. what
Well, right,
we
because we're
expected.
talking a difference of 53 to 58 cents from what they thought it was gonna be to the lowest. So, yes, there's that. It is definitely gonna be lower than what the original.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even, try to figure out mine right now. I had to use them good with math, but regardless, it's all gonna be a lot less than what they originally said.
Well, and I understand that, but what we need to make sure we're prepared for are the individuals, for their abatement, how much, how much.
But just because they put it in doesn't mean they're gonna get it. They, just because the taxes are higher, doesn't mean that they're wrong.
That they're right.
Right, just because you don't like your tax doesn't mean that you're gonna get an abatement. Like, I don't like my tax, I'm not getting an abatement. Like, it's just the reality, like, I don't like my tax, and I have nobody but to complain to but myself, because I help set the.
Well, one thing that we discussed before when we've been doing this is that you don't want to necessarily go too low, because in the next year you'll have to make up. And you don't have to go so high, because I mean, we're talking, it's like more than 3 times what it would have been if we went to the high side here, it would be more than 3 times what we saved before. Now, is evaluation here. So I feel like this, the middle, the 14 is middle of, we double, I mean, we doubled it. So that we, you know, we'd be prepared. So if it doubled or quadrupled from what it was this year, because there's an evaluation, or it went up, next year, we would know that, you know, things will have leveled out. I mean,
I have a question, is there a way that we can go with the middle of the road, go with the higher of the two that we're really looking at realistically? And if there's money left over that didn't get used, then instead of just going into the general slush fund, we could take it off the tax year of the year next year.
Well, so the short answer is no, the state has rules and all of this.
Right.
So anything that's not spent from overlay automatically drains down. However, we also got to remember that because the town has a history of using any surplus dollars above and beyond their 90-day cash flow, right? So again, I mean, the total piggy bank last, you know, for the current year was 1.5 something million, and we spent 380,000 of that, and we applied it to capital. So the worst thing that's going to happen, essentially, assuming everything else is sunshine and roses, is if we don't use the full, whatever the 26, I think it is, it drains down into surplus, and then that becomes part of the capital spending for FY25, and we can direct where it goes.
I just don't like any spending.
Yeah,
Like, I understand what you're saying, but you're basically giving tax money for spending that you wouldn't be giving tax money to spend. So like, I'm trying to keep, I understand where you're coming from. But the reality is we're going to take more tax money, we're gonna give it to the town to spend regardless. So like, that's the reality of it. And so trying to balance the taking as little amount of money as we can. In reality, the town voted for the budget and we have to now pay for the budget. I understand that, like, the town had the opportunity to vote the budget down if they didn't like it, and they didn't, they chose not to. So the reality is, we have to raise the tax money to pay the budget. But I just don't wanna take too much from already higher tax that we're already hitting them harder this year. I understand, like, so I have this question like this. If we went with the lower amount and we didn't have enough to cover, would it come out of the general budget?
So I asked John O'Donnell that very question, great question. So he says the following, he says, it depends. If you have at June 30 next year. Right, crystal ball. If we have excess in revenues like we did this year, and that excess in revenues was enough to cover, let's say you did the 1395 and you set aside the whatever it is, but we spent 20.
Right.
So that extra $9,000 would be just math pushing around for any extra revenues. However, if you didn't have that extra revenue and you overspent the overlay, then what you gotta do is you gotta call a special town meeting to approve taking that figure, $9,000 in this example, out of the piggy bank and apply it to offset for the auditor, right? So. in-
I just asked.
Yeah,
Well, and
no,
that,
great
that
question.
was my concern, because with mine, I was being charged for a patio I didn't have, an in-ground pool I didn't have, and an open porch I didn't have. And I'm wondering how many other people out there that may not have read their notices right or whatever, maybe in the state predicament and look for an abatement after the fact, and how that would affect it.
And if I may, Daryl, on the
You can-
point that you were making,
You can, yeah,
I would
throw me
say,
under the bus too, I don't care.
I would say two things. So if you believe, and I know it's a capital if,
It's a big,
if you believe that the spending that we propose in the budget is legitimate spending and not pie in the sky spending just because we want to spend the people's money. If it's needed spending and you pick the higher number, you don't use it all, it drains down into surplus, it gets repositioned into capital spending for FY 25. By doing that, you are in essence lowering what normally would have been a higher tax rate for FY 25 through the back door.
well, you don't, it doesn't have to go to capital spending, correct?
So the
You
town
can
has,
vote to use it towards lowering the taxes for the
The town
rate
has-
for next year.
the town has a policy, now, as a council, you can always change it. Believe it or not, there's a policy in there that says that you can't use the mill rate to lower, you can't use surplus to lower the mill rate. You can use it for two things, I believe, a major one was capital spending, and I think there was some other ancillary, it's been a long, about a year or so since I looked at it. But
So
I
when
was,
they've done that in the past, they've done it illegally.
In the first year of time.
illegal.
Well, against whatever our
I'm-
policy.
You can policy is policy, right? Policy is a rule, ordinance is a law. So you can always change the rule,
Policies can be changed.
you know, you can, and if you guys want to look at that.
No, I think we capped the mill rate in the first year of bond, and we did it by using some of the surplus money.
Surplus money.
I'm pretty sure the first year of bond we did that. I don't vote that, but because I thought it was better.
So at the end of the day,
It wasn't ideal. but
So this is kind of like insurance. You get insurance so that if
Right.
something happens, you have the money to,
Right, but on a normal year, we do a couple thousand,
no, last year we had 12,600.
that's all.
12,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if we did the 1395, we'd be doing a little less. And in my opinion, that would be a little bit,
How much should we use?
oh, we only use
30,000, I don't
Right,
have an
that's what I'm
exact.
saying. We only actually used a couple thousand.
correct. However, this year we have the valuation.
in
So-
the abatement.
So I feel like, right, so that the valuations could bring more abatements. So I feel like to be safe, we could do this and then we could borrow from our piggy bank. I mean, that's basically, we would be borrowing from money that we have. And you're saying, but you would be more comfortable doing that than, Raising it.
I don't like either,
well, okay.
both options have flaws.
There's here, Carol, I'm just trying to speak it out.
You're good, I'm following you,
So
and I
we
just
would,
don't know where I go.
if we say we chose 1395. So that gives us $11,600 sitting. Then we have. All these abatements, and it's like $20,000. So then we would borrow $9,000 or we would take $9,000. We'd have to have a special town meeting. And say, well, next, we need $9,000, we need to pull it from this budget, so we would do that. And if we did $14, we would have almost $26,000 sitting there. We only spent 20. We would have $6,000 that drained down and went in and basically would go the same place that we took the 6 from. Or we took the 9 from the other year, for the other year. So it's like, do we charge a little more and have some extra, which then goes back in?
They don't get it back though. The problem is we don't get it back.
No, the people don't
We
get
don't,
it back,
people don't get it.
but it's in the, it's in the
It's
town.
in our video deck. It's in my wallet. Or Nick's wallet.
Well, yeah,
Well, I know that's a poor choice of words, but I track this thing in pretty good fun.
right,
Like, I didn't mean it that way, obviously.
the business of the town.
I understand that.
So, and as people who are paying this tax, we have to say, how do we want to budget our money? Do we want to be, because I mean, I have no problem choosing $13.95. You can sell that to me if that's where you want to go.
I-
Yeah.
I'm on the same page as Daryl, but I tell you, the last 3 years, people have been hurt. And it doesn't help to have this valuation come in and obviously it's gonna raise their taxes. And if we can get by with the minimal,
We should do it.
we should do
That's, but I don't know if we can. That's.
Well, that's
I-
just the
it.
thing that,
I think we
So-
should try.
based on information that when Mitch was here, and we had a conversation, he basically said, you can always go with the lower, but the next year, you may not, it may not be the option, and you may be like, oh, we really need to go higher, so you don't wanna raise it too much. You just have to be, you have to.
They're going up a lot this year.
Yeah.
That's my issue with the taxes, is that no matter what, everybody's gonna feel the hit this year.
Yes.
Even if we go with the $13.95 or the $14.05, they're gonna get quite a hit.
Right. So I wish we knew the difference between.
I do have one quick question before I forget it, because my mind's kind of scattered. And I do not think you have the answer to this, but you would happen to know. This would be a really crazy, I thought that you would, but how much of a difference, like with all those people that have come in right now, like how much is, like, it's not an abatement, but it's kind of like a pre-abatement, right?
Right.
Do you know how much of a difference that has made to the town? Because that would be a really good figure to know.
I answered that.
Yeah, I assume you wouldn't because that's a crazy thought, but I just, like, if you had said, well, we're in like $20,000-$30,000 range, I'd be like, well, we definitely need to go with the middle of the road because we could continue to see that.
Yeah,
But
I
if,
just don't know if
it-
there's
but
a
if
trend.
I know that would, because again, just because you don't like your tax, don't mean, like, I also have some things on mine when I looked it up, but I couldn't take the time off from work to go see. Well, when I thought about it, $2,000 here and $2,000 there, the $4,000 that I'm being taxed on with the mill rate, it's really not that amount, a huge amount of money. That I'm being overtaxed for the couple of things, the few thousands of dollars that I could get probably taken off. For things that are no longer on my property. But when I think about what the mill rate at 14, $5,000, that's not a tremendous, taking a day off from work would have hurt more than trying to get that money back.
Yeah, actually, I would challenge us to do a little task and figure out, take one of these and figure out how much someone's taxes would go up between these three, what it would look like. Is anybody else interested in that to see? Or no?
All right, well, let me tell you, I'll tell you what mine will be, because I don't mind. Like you.
You have a concern?
I don't have concerns if Daryl's, because again, to some degree, it's all public information.
Right.
Right.
Oh, and we could just pick a number,
I
that
will-
someone's house is worth a certain amount.
I will tell you that Daryl's is one of,
Mine was used as an example,
I think you're in the top 5 for the.
just so you know, everybody knows. Mine went up more than anybody.
But how many square feet did you add to your home?
Well, I added a lot,
Right.
well, I technically, I've added a lot, I had the same, but even still, mine took,
I don't care.
but it is what it is, but so how do I figure the 14, is it 0.14 times?
Well,
So the evaluation.
yeah, so the estimate that you got was at 1453. So
Right,
pick a number, 13.95 or 14, so either 53 or 58 cents. So
right, but if I take the total valuation of my property,
I think
and I multiply it times 0.14,
on
how I get it?
$100,000, if I'm right, with my mental math. If you're going down 53 cents, it would be $53 on 100,000. So if your home is valued at 200,000, it would mean the difference of a little bit better than $100.
Right.
And so I think that, and again, so 5 cents, right? I mean, 5 cents still money, right?
Right,
You know, so it's, but if my mental math is correct, pretty sure it is. That,
right, but what I'm saying is,
So
if at 14, at the mill rate of 14, if I multiply, it, what do I do to the property value of my house?
So what's your house valued at?
14 per thousand.
Yeah.
So
So if your house is valued at,
430,
all right,
close to it.
so then it's 430 times 14. And it will be less than the 1453 of
5,590. If you want to know how much my tax is at 14. Roughly, I can't tell you exactly that it's 430 or something. So. Which I think their estimate was about their estimate was about $6,300. So at 14, I mean, mine is higher, so it's not gonna make as big of a difference for people's valuations. And like if your house would be 200,000, it'd be half the amount.
I think my 15, using 14 to 1453, that 53.
So that's at 14, so
It's 53.
I'll do 13.95, just so we can see the difference.
It's $5 per thousand
Right,
difference.
nothing.
It's not a lot.
It's not a lot.
I think
Right.
we need to do the meet.
Well, that's,
$5 per 100,000.
Right.
well, and that's what I mean is that the amount that it dwindles down for each individual, it is, I mean, we know everyone's getting taxed, we know this. But the amount that is for each, to get $14,000 for 3,000 taxpayers in this town,
I think you gotta go in the middle. Yeah, I hate to say it, but you know me.
I
hate
just
to
think,
say
I mean, we're
it's a
talking,
number.
we are talking pennies, but it is going to add up, and if we do 13.95,
We don't have the assurance.
we don't know, we just don't know, but we have a bigger, I feel like the risk, the liability is bigger this year because we did have this valuation. So there's more chance that people are going to. They're going to push for the abate, because if it's gonna save them $100, or if it's gonna save them a little bit of money, they may do it. We just have to be mindful of that, and I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, and I don't know that they'll get it, just because they want it, right? Like, I mean, I want an abatement, give me an abatement of $100,000, please, I'll take it. But the reality is, I can't complain about my valuation of my house. I think it's a fair valuation of my house. It's just a reality. So that's the house I chose. I mean, my property is bigger than my house. My mother's double wide is on it in another garage. That's why, it's not that my house is really worth 400,000, but my property is, so. The reality is, I can't complain about it. I think that's a fair resale value. In fact, I think it might even be a little low, so. Reality. John, don't listen to this. I don't know. I don't know if you could get somebody to buy it in McKinney Falls for 400 and something. Like, I don't know that we're the town that you could get that kind of money here. But the reality is, in today's market, I look in the end of I didn't like the bottom line, just like anybody else. But when I looked at it, I thought it was reasonably fair. It was hard for me to argue that number in today's market.
I had a comparison of my property. I've got a tremendous amount of land. I've got
Right.
buildings on top of buildings. I should be applying for another zip code at this point, which is serious, the amount of buildings that I have. And their valuation, I thought, was substantially lower than what I thought the property was worth, and what I had realtors tell me my property was worth. So
That's the reality. I mean,
it is when
I
it
think
is.
it's fair. I think he did a fair value.
I think it's very fair. The numbers that I looked at. There again, I know what my taxes are. And for basically $25 difference between the three, I would rather be safe and secure and not have to have a special town meeting,
Which will cost us money.
It costs us money.
Money.
For
For
the long
$115.
run, it's kind of like a law of averages, it's not a lot of money, but it gives us a buffer of twice the amount. If we jumped and
I have a question. The seniors walk in,
Well, I hear it's
ones that
fair.
walk in,
When you,
if this year's taxes are higher than last year, they'll only pay what they paid last year, correct?
Yes, so
They're locked in.
it's locked in.
they're locked into last year's amount. And the state it comes through with its promise, is supposed to by mid-January 2024 reimburse the town for that spread.
But I have heard they're already relooking at recant.
Well, this is a one and done. This thing that we've been experiencing, it's done after this year. It's been, according to the state legislature, they're going to, go after a larger homestead exemption for qualified people. And then the state already had a program in place for people 65 and older, and I guess they're enhancing that particular program. I think the details are still being written, so I get a legislative update all the time from MMA. And that's the latest and greatest, but there's still plenty to be written at the state level.
Well, the reason I asked is, do you have any, and you probably answer this either, how many seniors applied that when their homes were reevaluated, their old, what they paid last year was than what they were going to potentially have to pay.
I would say all of us, if everybody's taxed on them, and they're still too.
No, under that application, if they got it in by December, it froze them at what they were unless they were lower. Unless they were lower.
So
How
many are gonna be lower?
the house would have to be very dilapidated to go lower.
Or.
Today's market.
Land values increase.
Well, I would entertain a motion. After all that discussion,
I would propose that we go with the 14.00 mill rate. After discussion that it provides a safety buffer for people who are applying for exemptions. Abatements.
Is that a motion?
It was.
Second. 14.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Those against?
You can put it.
thank you, and I'll have you do the signing of the commitment right now as well. So, these 3 pages. Where you see 5 lines on this page, there's 1 5-line thing, I need all 5 of you to sign. And on the second page, there's 2 sections. And on the third page, there's 1 section there. So I need you guys all to have a signing party. And I'll reach out to John O'Donnell tomorrow and let him know that you guys chose.
Yes.
The 14th page.
Yes. First segment. No.
Yeah, right there. Yeah. Any place you see those 5 like lines.
Once you do that tomorrow, how long will it be before those come out?
So we'll probably still target mid-ish August to do that. That is still a little bit up in the air, and it's not just the town's issue. There's also an issue with Trio printing the tax bills and making sure that Trio accounts for the seniors program that's in play. It's supposed to freeze their tax amount, show the difference between the actual tax and the tax amount. And it's supposed to have information that I don't think Trio has solved as of yet. And hopefully they do in the nick of time. And then we'll aim to at least have the tax bills out in a normal manner towards the latter part of August, if not sooner, if the world cooperates. And if we run into bugaboos, I'll let you know.
You can hold on.
Very well, we can stop signing these. We can move on to 14.2, life insurance switch to MMA.
Yeah, So I'll give you the broad stroke and then I'll entertain any specific questions that you may have. So why is this coming to you? So when a personnel policy is part of the packet, I gave you the section that says that employees, full-time staff are entitled to 100% of their pay as life insurance on an ongoing basis. The town is, for the last few years, has purchased this insurance through Mutual of Omaha at essentially 30 cents a thousand. And this 30 cents a thousand covers life insurance and it has a little disability component connected to it. In reviewing this, it's good through until the first of the year. And I noticed a little hiccup. According to the policy, once an employee turns age 65, the benefit goes from 100% down to 65%. We have an employee that's about ready to turn 65. And so, in theory, I hope it's not an issue, but in theory, the town could be assuming some extra liability here if something bad were to happen and the insurance would only pay 65%, the town would be required to pay the rest of it.
Oh, because the policy, the personnel policy said it cover 100. The
Right.
insurance policy only covers 65.
Yes,
Okay.
okay. So then I reached out to MMA. We have some other stuff, the dental and all of that through my MMA. So I reached out to MMA. And I had I had conversations with Lisa and MMA person there by the name of Deb. And she, as part of your packet on this, MMA has essentially the same insurance for the same 30 cents thousand. However, they will cover 100% up to age 70. And then at age 70, it goes to 50% payout. So I don't know how many plus 70 full-time employees we'll have in the future. But given it's the 21st century and we're all living a little longer, thank goodness, I do think this is a reasonable time to switch from Mutual of Omaha to MMA. And on the last page of the packet is a little question on the email thread I had with Deb from MMA. And I gave her answers there to you as a part of this. Should you decide to have me have the town walk away, you know, do all the nitty gritty walking away from Mutual of Omaha to then pick up MMA, I need some time to answer the old, start the new. Everybody wants 30, 60-day notice, you know, all that sort of stuff. So I'm not waiting until December to do this, to bring it to you. I'm bringing it to you now. So that way I can have some time to maneuver and make this so. And if you, because you can just keep it as it is, I would recommend that we switch because for the same point, you're getting an extra 5 years of coverage.
Is there any negative to it?
The only downside negative to it is if MMA is part of that thread, she doesn't think that they're going to raise the rates. If they raise the rates and Mutual of Omaha didn't, then there could be a little reverse that way, right?
But we wouldn't.
You still have a 5 year gig.
Yeah, it would solve the problem, right? Yeah. So if you do want me to proceed and to switch this component from Mutual of Omaha to MMA, they also, as a part of this package, they had something that I would have you consider. And this goes under the category of, since I've been here, you people have been very, very good and very, very conscious about wanting to keep with people, keep our staff. And they actually, as a part of this, have a system where you could, for a flat $3.20 a month, insure their option B, insure the spouse of an employee for 50% of the employee's wage. So I'll use me as for example. So if you did this and we switched the insurance and we picked up the spouse component, the town would spend $3.20 a month to make sure that I had insurance on my wife for 50% of my pay. It's a nice little split. You don't have to do it. Or if you did it, you can make the employee pay for it. But honestly, this would probably affect fewer than 10 people because of the full-time staff. It really only impacts people who have a spouse.
So if you drop dead, we have coverage, you get.
Yeah, if she.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and so it's a part of the thing, it's an option, so I just bring it to you, because I have a dog in the hunt. Not gonna make any recommendations to you, I'm just providing you with information. But on the first component, to switch from Mutual of Omaha to MMA, I think is a smart. idea. And so I just bring this to you and for consideration.
So almost every place I worked, the employee would pay the couple dollars out of his paycheck for his spouse. But you're talking about an incentive, kind of like, you know, we
Honestly,
appreciate you guys, we're gonna
Yeah.
pick up the tab.
if it was 10 people and Lisa and I did a top of the head count, it's gonna be fewer than 10, that would be even possibly effective. You know, so $3.20 a month is what, $32 a month increase. Yeah, so $300 a year, you get to buy a little extra loyalty, if you think that that's what that does. You know, but that's,
You guys get paid bi-weekly?
yeah, we get paid bi-weekly, and so.
So if we ask them, I only ask if we ask them to pay for it, it would be $1.60 a paycheck.
Yeah.
For
no,
them,
you're right.
if they want that. So like, if you choose that option, is it everybody has it or everybody doesn't? Or is it just available if you want?
It's available to all full-time employees with a spouse.
So like it's available, you could take it and Janice would say no.
Yeah,
I don't, I'm not, I don't. Okay,
yeah, so it would, again, the total number it would affect would even be less than 10. I don't have, maybe I should have done the homework, but we were busy doing other things. And it's fewer than 10.
I just think they want to eat, but I think they're,
Yeah,
Oh,
that, but it would be for full-time,
it's only full time, there's no one full
Yeah.
time there.
yeah, full-time.
Full-time at 32 hours is considered full-time.
Yeah, well, based on our personnel policy, I think it's 36 or 27. So information, I think it's a good thing to do, at least switching the other. I'll just put in your line.
So are you looking for a motion or is this tonight, or you want us to think
I
about
guess
that?
at the very least, I'm looking for, if you're comfortable, for a motion to switch. And if you're comfortable, yeah, a motion on the spouse component as well. If you're not comfortable with that, then we could table that and give it a little bit of noodle. Up to you.
I make a motion that we switch from Omaha to MMA for their life insurance.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Where was that?
Yes.
So do we need another motion to
You know,
go?
if
for the
you
additional-
want to go there, yes.
Otherwise, they would just have, I mean, if we don't make a motion, then they'll still have the option to buy it for their spouse, correct?
Good question. I'm not sure of that.
That would be,
I think
That'd be
we- I
fine,
think
sir.
the council would need to approve it as a benefit, even if the employee paid for it. I would be more comfortable with that.
Is there any interest from the employees with this?
So, you know, it's the chicken and the egg. the
Yeah, you don't.
part.
tell her.
I haven't, because I didn't want to set any false expectations or anything. So, you know,
personally, I don't have it on this site, because I'm not there. So but in the past, when I was, I've always worked with someone that offered it, but I paid it as the.
I mean, I think that could be something that we, if we chose to have it, we could have the employee pay for it, and we could decide to pick it up later. But what if we decide it's $300 a year? I mean, that's,
Right, and I mean, in another year, if we wanted to do it as a benefit, we could do it as a benefit.
right. I
And
do
we
like,
would see then how much the employees actually valued it, whether anybody bothers to pick it up, right? Like, if nobody bothers to pick it up, even though we allow them to, if it's not worth their $3, then it's probably not worth that. $3.
Well, and it wouldn't even.
I'm just
maybe
saying,
$1.60 every.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying.
Right.
like,
I make a motion that we allow the balance of the benefit to be offered, not the employee costs, if they so choose to have.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
September council meeting. Currently Monday the 4th, which is a Labor Day. So do we want to do the Tuesday, the 5th, or do we want to do the following Monday? Does anyone have any preference?
I think I've heard.
Think what?
Our charter requires us to do it the next day.
we can set it.
No, you
Yeah,
have,
we can
you have
set
an option by your rules. It's not in the charter. It's in your rules of order. And you can set the date, and based on the amendments that we made about this time last year, you can set the meeting for whatever you want. You're not married to it. Traditionally, you've done, if it's a Monday holiday, you've done a Tuesday meeting, but you don't have to.
This is an August 7th. This is an August 7th,
Right, we do have.
right? I mean, the reality is today, it's August 7th, right?
So
So
I would entertain a motion. I mean, I'm fine
I
with that.
don't
Tuesday.
care either, so I have no preference. Yeah.
I need to keep it at the beginning of the month.
I
Is
make
there
a
any other
motion
Tuesday?
that we move September's meeting from the 4th, which is Labor Day, to the 5th. Which is Tuesday for our next, for September.
Second.
So further discussion is there any other meeting that,
Is there any?
any other meeting like, I don't know, planning board or something else in a meeting?
Not
It doesn't- okay.
instantly aware,
Okay.
because this is what we did last year
Okay.
and the year before.
So,
By keeping it early, it'll help us with the next thing.
Yeah, touche. Touche.
And what
I
time?
can read.
so we do still, so we're talking about 6:30 on September 5th.
Yes,
All those in favor?
All right, thank you.
You can't do this at the planning board meeting on the first Wednesday.
No, he's saying 6 PM, not
Oh.
6.
it is a situation.
No, he said he wanted it to be, but he didn't. He was- his words.
That's
Doing it.
that time, it's fine.
Okay, 14.4, September joint council planning board workshop date.
So Ryan is requesting that we get both groups together.
Okay.
Somewhere in the second half of September, whatever works for everybody. And we thought the last time the group did it was fruitful. And so we're just looking to schedules.
So you're saying like,
One night, they meet in the,
They
Let's
meet
say-
Wednesday.
I'm just asking, they normally meet on Wednesdays, right?
Yeah, traditional.
The first Wednesday of the month. Did Brian give you any idea of a date that might be
Well, we
conducive to their group?
well, he didn't take a measurement of that, because we're just taking the lead from you guys, quite frankly. I told them that, some on the council that like meeting on Mondays whenever possible, because it works. So be it a Monday or Wednesday, the only thing I think I'd ask is that it not be a Friday.
yeah, no, I don't think, well, that's the 3rd week of September.
Actually, Wednesdays.
I'm actually not available the 18th or the 19th. So that's that 3rd week, so if you maybe the 20th is a Wednesday. Is anyone? And we have to kind of propose this to them, see if they can.
Also, what, we'll just set it, you guys just set it, and then they'll be invited to attend the workshop,
Okay,
okay?
Yeah, Monday the 25th, and then they're gonna meet the next week following, it's gonna be fresh with them.
And remember, it's a workshop, no decision
Right.
can be made.
No, I know, but I mean, I'm just thinking they'll have an idea to spitball all that stuff, and then the next week they can actually. Maybe go with,
okay, so you're thinking Monday, September 25th? Yeah.
or like Monday's better.
Monday, the 25th,
I make a motion for September 25th at 6 o'clock.
I
Second
second.
that motion.
Any discussion? Everyone's writing it down, that mean everyone's in favor?
thank you.
Everyone's in favor.
Any agenda on that so far?
So now we have the two items that were added to tonight's agenda, 14.5. Marcia to the RSU 16 task force.
I make a
Oh,
motion.
Just one second, though, Ray said, is there an agenda, but it sounded like, Ryan had an agenda he wanted to get us together for?
Oh, for that workshop?
Yes,
Yeah, we're putting together 2 or 3 different ideas. We want to run through by everybody and take everybody's temperature on stuff before we go too far down the road. You know, I think it's wise to see what the council's thinking, planning board's thinking, and if it's no go, then that will give him a course of, to change course.
Okay.
You know,
I make a motion that we appoint Tarsha to the school
task
task force as our liaison.
that was one that we added. It's
Or you just actually part of the task force.
if you're part of the task. It would be, I would be the council member,
Representative.
the representative for the town and getting calls from our council. It's not on there. yet. It's 14.5.
we added it.
School.
I'll second.
No,
that.
it's called the Future Task. Force. Future Task. Force.
They're trying to figure out what to do with the issues.
There's already been
It's
6,
not really the sum.
and there's 6 more, one day tomorrow night. So if you wouldn't mind letting Amy Hagar know.
Yeah.
She said, talk to Dick. When I said. Right. So I did give a second though.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Oh, you seconded it? Okay.
So that's what you actually felt,
Yeah.
Sure.
as the really Robert's rules division. Because we're voting on you, so. So all those in favor, please say aye, or raise your hand. Sorry, I was nervous for a second. We always go in with eyes, we don't raise our hands. Half time we're on Zoom, nobody can see it.
And then 14.6 is the MMA ballot. And if I may make a suggestion,
I make a motion that our secretary cast one vote
what's
for
that?
the MMA.
He's putting it off on the end.
Well, that's the correct thing. Or having cast, half of the vote.
Yeah, because there's only enough people
There's
on
not-
there for all of it.
Yeah, so I do.
Or we accept the ballot, it's closed,
We
we
accept the
vote
ballot as.
as done,
Yeah,
however you want to write it in,
Okay, so then do we need to sign it?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
We have to
We have
vote
to
on it.
copy.
okay, so
Somebody's got a second time.
I second it.
any
Discussion. All those in favor?
all right.
You want
Aye.
to say aye instead of raise-
Aye.
So
I'm just a rebel,
Who has?
all of it tonight, you know.
so you have the original?
Original.
Right.
I do.
Okay, perfect.
You're gonna sign it. Or you can appoint me to sign it.
All right, we, that's what I meant.
I make a motion that we appoint.
Can you,
Nick, you can sign.
So I'll just sign it.
just,
Anything.
I think that's one vote, actually, so.
I will sign it.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
I second that. All those in favor?
Stand up. That's the way we do it here.
That's the way we do it in church. At band camp.